Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the Greyhawk Landing Community Development District. Today is Thursday, June 21st, 2018. The time now is 6:04 p.m. We are located at the Greyhawk Landing Clubhouse at 12350 Mulberry Avenue, Bradenton, Florida 34212. President constituting quorum, we have Jeff Evans, our chairman. Ollie Kite, Assistant Secretary. Dennis Smith, Assistant Secretary. We do have Mike Plyer, our Vice Chair, participating via phone. We do have audience members present this evening. We have Andy Cohen, our District Counsel. Rick Shopaker, our District Engineer. We have myself, Grant Phillips, representing District Management with Rosette & Company. Ed Morrow, our Field Manager. Al Erturk with Anix Outdoor Comfort Solutions. And John McNeil and Mike Kagan with Aquagenics. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we move to audience comment, board members, I would need a motion to allow for Mr. Playa to participate via phone. Is there a motion to allow? That was a motion from Jeff. Second from Ollie. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. The first audience comment card I received, keep in mind, please limit your comments to 3 minutes, is Sharon Lutiner.
On now? Yeah, I was just wondering if there was any way that we could get signs on the ponds so that it would say to beware of alligators. I'm not worried about the alligators, they're fine. I just don't want little kids going there and other people, because one of these days I know we're going to have a problem. And I just want to know if we can have a sign to warn people. And I just want it on the record that I've requested this, because if something happens in the future, I don't want to feel responsible that I did not ask this question. So.
Thank you. Board members, this is obviously an issue that we've talked about in the past. A lot of my communities obviously talk about this issue, and with the recent tragedy in the news, it's come up again, as you may imagine. The issue you have with posting a sign with regards to alligators is that you need to be careful about liability, in that if you post one lake, then you have to post all lakes, and if, God forbid, someone gets injured at a lake where you don't have a sign, then there's a question of why didn't you do that pond, or why didn't you do that side of the pond, or the back, or the front? Why didn't you warn about snakes or water moccasins or things along those lines? So the advice that I've given to my boards in the past, as well as this board, is that I believe that education is important. So I think that, and I certainly agree with perhaps a mass email or something along those lines to remind people about wildlife in Florida and the dangers of alligators and things along those lines. That's my recommendation. If we have knowledge of, which we've also talked about, if we have knowledge of an aggressive alligator or a dangerous condition or something along those lines, and that might be something that we need to, and in fact do, take an extra step with. But absent that, then you run the risk of, when you post, like I said, one sign, you open yourself up to potential liability regarding the issues I referenced.
Thank you. Next audience comment card we received is Dick Casino.
Now, better? I've got a couple things I want to bring up. Does anybody know what the watering schedule is going to be with the new irrigation system? Anybody have an idea when they're supposed to come in?
I'll request that, and I'll provide that to you.
And then also, as we talked before, is the irrigation going to go right to the end of the road here? Chantilly, I think it is, on the corner. Is that corner, or those two corners going to be irrigated as well? The other thing is, I want to bring up, the gym is starting to deteriorate again. It's getting dirtier and dirtier. The windows are filthy, inside and out. They're they're a mess. They really are. The other thing is like the floor mats, the big mats that the machines sit on, they're getting skewed in different directions. If you stand there and look at it, it just looks terrible. It's not inviting. If anything, I believe that when we take care of things like that, it invites vandalism. Kids will come in there and they won't respect it because they know we don't respect it. Also, I'd still like to get mirrors. I know we talked about it last year, but it would really be nice to get a couple mirrors in there. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, somebody else brought up signs for alligators. What about we talked about this last year too, what about putting some signs up along the roadway where people make sweeping U-turns to get up next to the mailboxes and drive across the lawn, across the sidewalk, and onto the other lawn? People do it. I mean, I've watched people do it. Several people are doing it. It wouldn't be a bad idea to put a couple please do not drive on the lawn. A couple signs in each area where they're prone to do that. It might save us, heartache in the end. You don't have to reseed all the time. It really is starting to look messy. And again, if we don't take care of these things, it's going to continue to deteriorate. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Next audience comment card is Shannon Mueller.
I just wanted to ask if there is a plan for the... Yes? It's on. A plan for the guard while the pool is closed. It just bugs the dickens out of me that we pay a guard to sit here and it's closed. So I hope there is a alternative plan for his... Yes. I mean, because we do pay him to sit here when it's closed for short term. Now that we know it's going to be a long term, I think we can manage our resources better than having to pay.
Well, let me address that as of right now. If you don't have a pool guard here, you have adults hopping the fence. There's chemicals in the pool that will burn you. There's no pool pump circulation. The other issue is we have people defecating in doorways. Just happened on Saturday night at the recreation center. We have pictures, we have photos, we have video. So if anybody cares to take a look.
I'm talking about this pool that's closed.
Correct. If you don't have somebody guarding this pool.
So we are planning to continue to pay a guard to sit here at the closed pool during the duration of the time that it's closed.
Correct. The pool pump will be installed Saturday or Sunday.
Okay. My next concern is non-attending board member. I don't think we're getting adequate service when someone can't attend, and I guess that's why the rules of procedure say that when approved to participate in the meeting via teleconference, he doesn't get to vote, and he does not count towards quorum. And yet, in your packet, it shows that he's checked off as present, and I don't understand that inconsistency. Why is he considered present when he's not voting, not present, not attending?
Yeah, if you look at the meeting minutes, it actually says present, and then in the actual parentheses next to it, it says present via phone.
Okay, so he doesn't count towards quorum, and he can't vote, but he counts paid for a service when he doesn't always stay on the phone.
That is correct. And I say I'm not defending Mike. Mike is, of all the people who have ever been on the board, the Greyhawk CDD, he has been the most, he continues to be the hardest worker.
I agree, and I think he provides tremendous organizational history and...
His purpose on the phone is to help us and give us an update.
Can he at least stay on during the complete duration of the meeting and maybe work out that we're not yelling across and he's not talking so we can't hear what's going on at the meeting? And yeah, I have concerns that I don't think that's an effective use of our resources.
Thank you, ma'am. The last audience comment card I received is Debbie Romano.
I just have a quick question. We are changing the date from the Craft Bazaar from the 18th to the 3rd of November, and I just need approval from you guys. It's already, according to date is open, and I just need to make sure so I can sell it that way.
Choose board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the audience comment portion of the agenda today. We do have 2 vendors present this evening that are going to be giving reports. The first is going to be Anix Outdoor Comfort Solutions. At the very back, I did leave some extra packets as well. I know he brought some. So he will be the first to present. His name is Al Erturk, and he will also be present after to answer any questions. He'll be set up outside, so if you do have questions after his presentation, we would ask that you please ask them outside so as not to disturb the rest of the meeting. I will now turn it over to Al to address the audience members at this time.
Hello, my name's Al. I guess you've heard that 3 times. Thank you for letting me speak to y'all. Anix is an outdoor comfort company that started in 2004. We specialize in outdoor insect control. Anix stands for Automatic Natural Insect Killing System. We also do a lot of other products, so if you got some of those brochures, I left some blind midge, spider, no-see-em brochures. All as a lot of other outdoor comfort products we provide. Our system is an automated delivery system. It's made for your backyard. It's made for your property. I understand that there's solutions like Aquagenics is going to provide, which I think is very meaningful to control them in the lakes. That's just an opinion. I know I'm not part of this, but I can tell you from pest control experience, it's very meaningful to control particularly the blind mosquitoes in the lakes themselves. But our system is going to help you in your own personal yard. It's going to help you with mosquitoes, no-see-ems, if you have any here. I know they have them in Waterleaf, and we have a bunch in there, as well as spiders and the blind mosquitoes. So it gives you a lot of insect control benefits, flying insect control benefits. Also helps keep the soffits clean. So you know how when you have the blind mosquitoes, you get a lot of spiders, you get a lot of dirty soffits from the spider webs and the blind mosquitoes or lake midges to those webs. Our system actually helps keep that clean by killing the spiders that minimize the webs for the blind mosquitoes to stick to. I will say that our system is not 100% safe. I don't want to represent that it is. Tackling lake midges, blind mosquitoes are the same thing, by the way. I keep referring to them. It's the same thing, same insect. Is a task. It takes a lot of things working together. Our system is very, very good on mosquitoes. It's very good on no-see-ems. It's very good on spiders. The reason why the blind midges or gnats are a problem, frankly, is when they come out, and I'm sure you've noticed, they're cyclical, right? They'll be there, flare up, and come all over your house, and then die off. You got to go clean it up, and then you wait a few weeks and they come back out again, okay? So their life cycle is completely different. They're literally like born, live, I think it's 3 days, and they die. And so for that harvest, there's a bunch dying and coming at such a rapid rate, and then the eggs come out and start producing again. So it is a very cyclical thing. Our system will control them on your house and kill them, but the sheer volume, if I'm killing 80% of them and there's 30,000 around your house, that still leaves a lot on your house. Okay? So it's just a reality. It works very well. I just like to set reasonable expectations. It has a lot of benefit and ancillary benefit, again, with mosquitoes and other insects if you'd like the system. Some of you may have screens. I can tell you that it helps keep the spiders off the screens as well. And keeps other insects from coming in through the screens if you want our system for the backyard. We're a complete outdoor comfort company. We specialize in mosquito control, temperature control, cooling and heating, awning, screens, our motion roofs, and a bunch of other products. So this brochure summarizes that, and I left these at the front door, mini versions of these that summarize the insect control. I have a table outside I happen to have a cooling system with me, and it's hot out there, so I decided to set it up for me. If you'd like to see it, you're welcome to come see it. And it works very nice to cool the outdoors and your patios and lanais. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
I know there's variables, but what's the range of cost?
Sure. So General questions like that are perfect. That's what I need in the audience. If you have personal questions about your own property, we're going to cover that outside, okay? So the price range depends on the size of the yard. It's based on the nozzles that we do. But on average, a system for residential is going to start about $3,000. So that's kind of where they start. There is also monthly maintenance because you're consuming a low-grade insecticide. If you want to know what that is, it's in the brochure, but it's a chrysanthemum or mum-based. It's a pyrethrum, and it can be either Riptide or Sector, or the commercial brands we use, depending on what we're targeting. That's where it starts, and then it depends on your yard. We do have a lot of systems that are $3,000 systems, though, because especially if you have a screen, it tends to be a smaller system. So it also depends if you want to do it around your whole property. Some homeowners want to do just the backyard, some want to do the entire house, and we can do that. Yes. Sure, if they would like me to do that, I'd be honored to do that.
Does your product control the midges, those blind mosquitoes?
Yes. Yes.
So if I have a really bad issue with them coming out, they will go away if I use your product?
That's not necessarily true. I want to make sure I qualify that. It's going to kill about 80% of them, and it will make it a lot better, but you will still have some. I think my honest opinion, if your midge problem is really bad, my honest opinion is it's going to take a united front. I think what something like Aquagenics plans to present would be very beneficial because you're killing them there at the source, controlling them at the source. What we're presenting is controlling them at your house. If you decrease the volume at the source, then our system is going to be a lot better at your house, and it's going to give you other benefits as well. So,
How broad is what you, having looked at this, understanding the midge problem, that's why we're not anything other insects, but midges specifically. What kind of zone does your treatment plan that you would recommend cover? Is this for part of one property, all of one property, multiple properties where two neighbors could get together and share?
they could. We've had a difficult time with neighbors doing that in case one moves or sells because there's a shared control panel. Meaning that there's a control panel timer assembly that's shared. And I don't know if you all know, but we have our system on the back here. But the shared control panel is what makes it difficult for people to split it because it's a matter of, who did what, whose chemical was used the most, how many nozzles are on each side. So it's difficult for people to do that. We found most people just like to have their own system, even if they're neighbors. They pay for their own maintenance and their own chemical, and they know exactly what they've used. They get a remote control as well, so they can spray it when they want to. So, for example, if it's a particularly heavy evening where you have a lot of midges out, or day, I'm sorry, and you want to knock them down, you can just spray it from the remote control, and it will spray it and knock them down. So there's because of that, it's difficult for people to share it. Our solution is really intended for an individual homeowner to want for their own home and to make their lifestyle better in their patio. That's the way our solution works. So the control panel itself is about $1,400 plus the nozzles that we add. So you end up paying approximately an average of $60 to $75 a nozzle that we would add to your system. The timers are going to be set to go off when you need it, but the remote control will allow you to spray it additionally. The remote control also has a pause feature. So let's say it's set for a time where maybe you've got guests or you ended up with somebody coming over, you're swimming, whatever, you don't want to spray. The pause feature will actually let you pause the system. We do that as a convenience, not that we think the product is, it's considered harmless at occupational levels for us and for our pets, but we still don't want people being in it when it sprays. It's kind of just being not fearful, but respectful of the product and just not being in it for the 30 seconds it sprays. Any other general questions? Yes. It actually kills and repels. So it's a repellent-based product. Permethrins are a repellent as well as a killing. If you're familiar with permethrins, but it's pretty much a household insecticide. Probably everybody in here has some kind of permethrin-based product in their house, or certainly much stronger than that. But permethrin is considered a lower-grade insecticide. Our soldiers use it when they go out to war in jungles because the bugs will actually die when they land on it. Hunters will soak their clothes in permethrin, particularly and wash them in the permethrin-based insecticide, so when they're out hunting and the insects land on them, they die. It's a very low-grade insecticide, which is really what you need for repetitive delivery, because we are delivering automatically repetitively, and you want something low-grade. You don't want something harsh. And you want something effective, and permethrin's effective, and it's low-grade, and it can be repetitively delivered.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, Al, we've been very satisfied with the mosquito control over at the clubhouse. If we, as the mosquito control is, I know you use a different, EPA-approved spray, but I know it will kill a certain percentage of the business. Will that help, let's say, kill 80% of the business? Will that also knock down, besides killing them, just knock down the population of spiders, which a lot of residents have had a problem? When you get the midges, you get the spiders.
Yes, when the product is spraying, it's going to kill what it comes in contact with. That's a insect family. Mosquitoes, spiders, roaches, ants, fleas, ticks. There's a list of insects that it's going to help with. And frankly, wasps, mud daubers, you'll see if you ever get mud daubers on your house, if we have the system around your fascia, you'll see that the wasps, the mud daubers get decreased. So there's a lot of ancillary benefits from the product other than just the midges. And I think that's the question you were asking. And it's the same product, so it's not like we're going to have to change product. The only thing we do is we have certain times we would target particular insects. So, for example, spiders are nocturnal, so we're going to spray at night to target spiders. The midges are quite daytime insects and not so much nighttime insects. Mosquitoes are nighttime insects. So the spray times change for the insect we're targeting, but the product is the same. Yeah.
On the average, what's the monthly maintenance?
So if you add a $3,000 system, on average, full maintenance and a warranty program is going to be about $84 a month if you had about a $3,000 system, yeah. Now, there are systems that are bigger, there are more, and it's based on how much product you consume. I think that's it. If you should have any more questions, I've probably gone over my allotted time. I'll be right there, sitting in the cooling of my system. And if you all want to see me. And there's brochures at the back table if you just want to grab some on your way out. Thanks again very much for giving me the time.
Let Alan go outside.
Correct.
If there's individual residents that want to speak to him, they don't have to wait till the end. That would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, we covered that.
Correct. The next presenter we'll have is we do have Mike Hagan and John McNeil with Aquagenics. I know that they did have some packets for the residents as well, and I will introduce them at this time and they can address the audience.
Hello. Hi, my name is Mike Kagan, and I'm with Aquagenics. John McNeil is also with Aquagenics, and take care of all the lakes, ponds, and most of the wetlands and buffer areas out here. We've done work for Rick inside the wetlands, cleaning up some of your control structures. So you see on the vehicles driving around the lake, that's our guys. Currently, we're contracted for aquatic weed control. So we're trying to keep those nice beneficial plants you have in the water there, and trying to keep all the bad stuff out from overrunning it. Part of our main goal is never to eliminate all the vegetation. We just try to control. We're trying to create a healthy ecosystem in a stormwater pond whose function is to collect stormwater runoff, hold it, let it settle out before the water is released to another property. So with that said, we're trying to take something that was built for a completely different purpose and make it look nice and attractive and increase your property value. Recently, there's been a lot of concern, especially in the Greyhawk West area, with midges, which we just heard about, the blind mosquito. They pose no public health issues. They don't bite, they don't carry disease. However, they're annoying. What we've seen just in the 22 years I've been doing this, the newer developments, when the ponds are originally put in, tend to have more midge problems than mature lakes. And I'm not exactly sure the research why, but I have my belief on what goes on. Eventually the ponds are going to reach an equilibrium. As you start getting these plants in here, you start having fish to hide. Those fish eat the midge larvae. So eventually it gets into a control structure. When they first build that pond, there's nothing really in there, and those midges come in right away and they take over and they're not in check. So rest a little bit assured, things are probably going to get better over time, whether we do any kind of try to control measures or not. I definitely think the best thing you can do long term is to continue what Mike Playa started years ago with putting perimeter plantings in that also go to keep the pond with less nutrients and whatnot going in there. They're a great thing to have. You do have designed littoral shelves that have to have plants, but we've taken it a step further out here. And again, that was Mike's dream, and he started it. Every year we put about 4,000 plants in, and we distribute them around, and they try to take off. So with that said, we're going to talk about midges real quick, and I handed out some packets to the board. We do have packets for you all, but I'm just going to go real quickly through the power. And basically, this is what the board members have in their packet. Right here up on the, you see a map of the property. And it's broken into the north and the south. Oh, I think, there it goes. Okay, so this being the south and this being the north section. Greyhawk West is in the south section here. These ponds right here in like pink, they haven't been added onto the program yet. We've actually kind of been taking care of them, but technically they're not on the contract. They will be hopefully by the end of tonight. And then you're just left with 9A and 9B that'll come online down the road. But that gives you an idea of the amount of water that's out in this system. Okay, could you go ahead and advance it? This is a breakdown of basically Greyhawk, Greyhawk West, and total. This is acreage in linear feet. You add it all up, you've got 17.11 miles of shoreline. This is just the lakes. We're not talking about the wetlands or anything else. So you got 90,352 feet. Total acreage, 136, and littoral area is 23 acres on site here. Go ahead and go to the next one, John. These are kind of financial breakdowns. Basically, our pond control maintenance that we do right now, which is weed control and algae control and submerged vegetation, is about $28 an acre. With the midge issue coming up, I've basically put up in here monthly expenses and annual expenses if you really try to address these issues. The board has that. There's a few products we'll go into, but there's Vectobac, which is a bacilli bacteria. It will actually kill the midges. The bacteria gets into their digestive system, causes crystals, the midge dies. Then there's more of a molecule, which is Alticid, which is methoprene. Methoprene is basically a growth inhibitor, and it's a hormone, and it'll cause that midge to not really be able to reach adulthood. If it can't reach adulthood, it doesn't get wings. If it doesn't get wings, it can never leave the water, it can't reproduce, and it can't have eggs, and it breaks the cycle. If you read these labels, I've got label rates up here, and I calculated down every single lake out here, what it would cost, but it's all based on acre calculations. So the board has that, they can take a look at it. I'll tell you, it's very expensive compared to what you're paying for aquatic weed control, just with that in mind. We also have some products that are like Muck Away and Pond Clear, which are another bacteria product, very safe, it's a good idea to do it, and basically it's a product that will boost the metabolism of the naturally occurring bacteria you have, and it'll help to reduce the muck on the bottom. It's a good idea to do something like that for long term because, again, these are settling ponds, and the idea is to collect. So anything you can do to keep that volume and capacity up over time so you don't end up in a dredge situation is great. And it also, once you take that muck away, you've taken away where the midges want to be in the pupa stage. So now there's nowhere to hide, and the predator fish can get to them. So there's a good benefit with that. And again, that's always recommended to be done in correlation with aeration. Aeration is the bubblers you see that bubble up. The idea of that is you're breaking the thermocline, you're bringing oxygenated water from the top to the bottom. If you've ever swum in a deep lake and you get down like 10 or 15 feet and all of a sudden it gets really cold, that's the thermocline. Below that level, there's no oxygen. So the idea of the bubbler is it's not the bubbles putting the oxygen in, it's the creating a venturi and an upwelling. They're taking that unoxygenated water from the bottom, bringing it to the top, and meanwhile the oxygenated water is coming down below. So it's just creating an upwelling. Very effective in deep lakes. When I say deep, living in Florida, you'd think deep is 8 feet, but it's not. They're effective when it's about 15 feet or deeper. You do have lakes out here that are that, but the vast majority of lakes, just so you know out here, are in that 8 to 10 foot range, and sometimes aeration can actually bite you and make the pond worse. We've had it to where it basically, by the upwelling, it basically just warms the whole water column and leads to platonic algae blooms, which is when you just get that lake and the whole water column is just green and nasty. That can happen. So you do want to be smart about it. And go ahead and go to the next one, John. We're not going to go through all the details of it. This is a little bit about midges, and we have packets you guys can take a look at. It just goes over the pupae stage, what University of Florida recommends. I'll let John talk about the recommendations just real quick, and we're trying to move fast. Let me know if we got to stop us, because there's a lot here to cover. But here you go, John. Maybe just talk about the recommendations.
Thank you. There's basically 4 plans to a best management practice plan for taking care of these pests. A lot of them would go back to what Al originally was talking, and doing some things around your home also. Doing whatever you can to try to minimize the amount of midges that are on your home. Then it goes back into, there's ways to set up lights in the wetland areas, because the midges are focus and attracted to light sources. So you've got street lights, you've got house lamps and things of that sort. Recommendation would be potentially to put some lights in maybe a wetland area or on the back side or a wild side of the pond to attract them to the other side of the pond. And then it goes into the different types of things like Mike had mentioned. We've got 4 different types of treatments here. And again, they're in these packages, and help yourself to them. Whether it's the biological effect or the harsher chemical effect. But the big thing is that midges are part of the ecosystem. There is no way to totally eliminate them, and you wouldn't want to, because they're part of a food chain, but we want to try to manage them the best we can. So inside this package, for you guys to take would be the different options of for the treatments. And again, just to echo what Mike said, the treatment is more expensive than what you pay for, or what is for the aquatic maintenance itself. It's a whole nother realm or part of our business. And in that package, we have some field studies done right here in Florida, in Orlando, and the different types of things from Air Max is what we're recommending for aeration systems in a couple of the different ponds. And that's about what I have.
So anyway, you have the different products that are there. Even both the Vectobac, as I mentioned earlier, and the methoprene, which is Alticid, is the brand name, are considered very safe. No detrimental effects to humans whatsoever. The methoprene and the bacilli may also hurt some other insects that maybe aren't your target insect. But another thing that's important to mention is that I wish we were going after mosquitoes. The rates on mosquitoes is about 1/10 of the rate you need to get midges for the products. Because the larvae of the mosquitoes is up in the water column. Easy to get product to. The midges are down in the mud. So midges are very expensive to treat and very difficult to treat. If you could just advance to the next one, John. There's some of the products. You guys go Google them, look online. You go ahead and keep going. Pond Clear is another great product, bacteria product. Go ahead and advance. You'll have the labels in there. Just go ahead and keep advancing. Other different products, so you guys can research it if you like. Okay, let's go ahead and stop here. This basically talks about the health risk. Just a sheet I put in. If you guys have it, look through it. And go ahead and advance, John. This is the aeration system that we'd recommend. There's different sizes. It's very well built, piston compressor, very quiet. It's come a long way in the technology from the old rotary vanes. And go ahead, John. We did outline, there was 4 lakes out here that were of more concern than others. So we did give you a very good price, assuming that the power is located here. This price would be to have the hoses, the depressor, the compressor, everything done, plus tax, whatever. But a good option. One of the big hurdles you're going to have is getting the power down to the lake. There are, and they're about 7 times more expensive than these units. But yes, we got those too. We can do that. Keaton is the manufacturer for those. But it's something to consider, and it depends too. You start to try to do a lake like, could you advance, John? You know, this is taking a major compressor to get this done. And the deeper the lake, the more guts you need to get the air down. But go ahead and advance. Okay, that's it. So basically at this point, I don't know if the board has any questions about the packet that I gave out that had kind of those financial overviews. Did you want me to touch on anything? Yeah, the aeration, the cost I gave you in those packets, and again, for the 4 lakes, they are very accurate. Other than that, I was just kind of going off acreage. I don't really know because it depends on how long the hose lines are and where the power is. But yeah, you pay for it, you get the compressor. Yes, there's going to be maintenance probably once a year. You're going to change some filters and things nothing major. And then the electric, and usually the electric for most compressors, for like an average 2-acre lake, it's about $25 a month for a 724 run. Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? I think most of them are in that 10 to 12 maybe. They're going to be, well, if you guys decide to be, get serious about it and you really want it, then we'll go out and check. We kind of saw 10 being built, and I think 10 is very deep. And this is, again, something the board's going to have to think about and maybe do on an as-needed basis. If everybody was to want one, and every lake out here, you're probably looking at about $250,000. So you gotta look at it and go from that. But they've got all the information now to make those decisions, but nothing about midges is cheap, unfortunately. We don't have that list. That list would have to come from the board. I mean, I'm not out here every evening. I don't know. You guys know better than me than what's the priorities.
Right now, it's 6, 7, 8, and 6, 7, 8, and 10.
We have given the board a proposal for every pond throughout the Greyhawk community. But those were the 4 major ones that were
I've been punching away at that spreadsheet for 2 days, but you've got all the information there. It's going to be something that the board and you guys are going to have to discuss. Yes. That'd be a question for the board.
Question for the resident.
I mean, that's been in the minutes for over a year, almost 2 years in the meeting minutes.
Ma'am, we've had numerous audience comments in the past, and they've been, like they've stated, the meeting minutes for at least a year now. So it has been a topic that has been discussed by this board for quite a lengthy period of time.
On these Air Max units, what is the life cycle on these? How long are they good for? I mean, do they last 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
You're well over 10.
Over 10.
Yeah, these are, unlike a fountain, these are on land.
Yeah.
They last. It's a compressor.
Okay.
It's not gonna, the fountains in the water, they're a lot tougher to maintain.
We have done several districts for ponds. I'm not sure. I think they do site visits, obviously, periodically, but I'm not here all the time. So I don't know. Do they seem to get better at all since we've done these treatments, or none of this?
built this facility. Yeah, it seems to be random, you know? I've been 4 years, and I live on Rosemary, on 6, I believe. Sometimes you hear a lot worse than others.
Yeah. Exactly. Or love bugs. Sometimes it's worse than others, you know. And again, unfortunately, that's one of the reasons, you know, it's hard to monitor the effectiveness. It's hard to know if your treatments were the reason it got better, or did it just naturally get better? And unfortunately, when I spray weeds, I can spray it and I come back and the weed is dead. I know I did my job. With the midges, you're not going to have that. And you can do a lot of research on it. There's a lot of studies. Yes, it does help, but you'll see a lot of information in those studies, and it's a big, this isn't just a you problem. This is kind of worldwide, by the way. And
That was actually passed away because they reduced the limit, so it's not just here in Florida, it's worldwide.
Yeah.
All
right.
I don't know, we discussed this before the meeting, but did you want to outline that those proposal costs did not include electric if we had to run electric from a different location?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Grant's asking Mike a question.
Yes, it is important to know, like, the price there for this particular unit on the left was $3,400 installed. But that does not, that's assuming you guys got a power right there. I got an outlet to plug it into right there. No one's going to want to plug it off their house. So you're going to have to go from a transformer, have an electrician or somebody dig a trench over 12 inches deep, I believe, in conduit. From what I've seen, usually it's about $2,000, $2,500 to run the power.
Yes, so.
Yeah. Was it a Keaton? I think that's probably, yeah. That's the main name. And we got those too. We can look into that if you guys want to go that route.
One of the things they put on our spreadsheet here with the cost, to put an aerator in those 4 ponds would be about $20,000. That's not including the cost of a running of the electricity in there, and the maintenance cost remains the same per unit, probably a little bit more. As an example, Pond 10, which is the deepest pond out there, it's about 20 to 30 feet deep. That's about $9,400, $9,500 for the aerators to go in there. Other ponds are average about $3,000, $2,800, $3,800. So you have to, the question asks, if we do one pond, then if someone else complains and says, I have my pond, at what point in time does it not become cost effective? You know, Aquagenics ran some numbers for us, and to do everything that they said for the ponds, as an example in West, would be 610. I just added it up here a minute ago.
The annual cost should
It's
be
about
at the top.
$250,000 a year. If we put all the chemicals in as they recommend, as they said, every month to every pond, and after 2 months, we have no money at $250,000. And that's not even counting the ponds that are in Greyhawk East, because those ponds too have midges in them that the individual, they're more mature. I have them at my house. You know, my wife complains every morning, why don't you go out and clean the pool, because they're all over the pool. And I have probably one of the finest meshes that can go in there, but they still get through. So you learn, you know, it's a sad thing to do, but I go out diligently and I clean the pool, and then I wash them down with water, and that pretty much kills them in the morning.
I'd like to ask Mike from Aquagenics and John, and Mike Plyer, as well as anyone else in the audience who's been close to this subject for the last year. So, you know, are these...
You want me to go first?
Well, let me ask my question first. Are these the 4 ponds where you have seen the problem? Or are there other ponds where the problem also exists? And do we have good, solid reporting information from the residents on, this lady said a year ago it wasn't as bad as it is now. Any data on this that says, well, it was bad in March of last year, or August, because we have data from then, and we have data from now. Because I haven't heard any data. I've heard individual people, or perhaps groups of people who are neighbors, say, I've got a problem. But has that been documented as to what house do you live in? What pond do you live in? When is the problem up or down, or is it always the same? We need some data, Rick. And I'm turning to you and Ed to acquire that data so that we can then apply where the problem truly exists, at what level, and then ask Aquagenics to say, okay, how do we solve the problem as presented at these ponds? Do we have to go to the aerator? Or, from what I've read and heard, the aerators are great for the fish, but they may not do much to deal with midges. So, you mentioned before the maturity of the ponds. How much maturity? How old is pond 10? But because of its depth, maybe it's going to take 20 years for it to mature, whereas a more shallow lake will take 3 years. So we don't have data like that. And we absolutely have to if we're going to spend this kind of money. So, Ed, I know you're kind of at the bleeding edge of this in terms of the interaction, but Rick, you got to step up to this kind of stuff if you're going to be our engineer.
Jeff, I've been here 14 years.
Yeah.
These guys have not been here that long, okay?
No, but we haven't had that problem for 14 years.
Excuse me, I've had it for 13 years, all right? I'll be here 14 years in December. I've lived with this problem for 13 years, okay? It's gotten better since the treatment. If anybody looks at the report from Manatee Mosquito Control and the expert in the DISH department, okay? University of Florida, read the report. They have suggestions, but there is no 100% solution. So we don't have the resources to do the data that University of Florida does. They are the experts in the United States. This is not even a U.S. problem. This is a problem throughout the world. As I said before, there's countries, and it may not be a species here, there's other species throughout the world, but they're all very similar, where cows and cattle breathe them in, and they're so thick that they suffocate, okay? My house has been covered, my screen, my lanai, my front entrance has been covered, okay? And my next door neighbor, he's covered so he goes, oh, we don't go outside, so it doesn't matter. Now, I'm right next door. His screen's gone. I can look out my back door, and it's the same thing. That everybody looks at it in a different way. They are not poisonous. They don't carry disease like mosquitoes would have. It's a very, very tough situation. There is no 100% cure, okay? It's Mother Nature, and we have good seasons, bad seasons, whatever. We've had some success. I think this report, I don't think anybody can make a decision tonight. I have to congratulate, I'm really impressed by the report from Aquagenics, because this is definitely an in-depth thing or whatever. What do you want to do? A scientific study or whatever? Go to University of Florida if you want a scientific study or whatever. We can't do that. This is like when we wanted to do something here for, opening or closing entrance or whatever. We let Lakewood Ranch do it because they had all the lawyers and the money to spend on it. We can't spend the money on that. We look at this report and we decide what we want to do. Okay, I know I'm going to guess, and do I have scientific evidence of this? I'm going to say we have probably 20 to 30% of the lake here have a midge problem. Okay, I think I heard Ollie saying that they're better this year, but we always have a problem. I've had this for 13 years, and I'm telling you,
treatments that have been done, they seem to have had some impact.
Yes.
Can those be continued
Yes.
while we continue to analyze and this is a big issue.
Yeah. Currently, we're doing it on a, kind of a work order basis. What I put in that spreadsheet was everything you can do.
Right.
Because one of the things that gets to us is we're doing a one-time treatment when the label calls for every 4 weeks. And then they're complaining that it didn't work. Well, of course it didn't work. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it breaks that cycle enough to alleviate it. But what you're going to probably have to look at on there is, and those rates can be changed. Those are the label rates recommended. But for example, with the aeration, if you're going to do aeration, you probably should do some of the pond clear, at least with it, which is the cheaper one. And that rate can be, that's 16 packs per acre. That's what's recommended on the label. Could you do less? Of course you could do less. Any you put in is better than nothing. So you could look at it that way. I just wanted to give you guys a complete picture of every option out there.
Sure, I understand.
And then what could...
Figure out where to aim various weapons at.
Yeah.
So am I to understand that all those who looked at this have zeroed in on 6, 7, 8, and 10 as the epicenter of this problem, and that something less aggressive has been or will be effective?
How will you come up with those
in
four
maybe
fronts?
a less zone?
The community is speaking also, but traveling around the community, they do seem to be more in greater numbers in that area. They are throughout the whole community, but they did seem to be stronger in that area. That's the only reason. We haven't gone out and counted or collected or anything because we haven't been contracted to do anything.
No, I wasn't
But
expecting
it's
that
just
you would have done that.
visually what you see in the field, they seem to be
What
stronger there.
our residents' experience has been.
And financially, you're going to have to look at it most likely on an as-needed basis, and you're going to get the results that you get on an as-needed basis. But we have accounts like Winding River. They had one particular lake, they were saying, brand new lake. I went out there, parked my truck on the one vacant lot that was still there. But when I got out, it was ridiculous. I mean, I was swarmed, the truck was swarmed. They go to white, so it was all over the truck. We did one treatment in there with, I think that was the Vectobac. And it worked. It broke the cycle, and they never really complained. Now, did they still have midges? Yeah, I'm sure they did, but they didn't have the swarm. So, I mean, financially, realistically, that's how you're going to have to go about it, most likely, unless you guys win the lottery. But it is an expensive proposition, and by no means am I trying to sell you on it. I'm trying to give you all the information for you guys to make that decision.
We basically did like a quarterly treatment, once every 3 months with that. We just did the last few treatments, only on number 7. And that seemed to be extremely effective. But we were only doing it on an as-needed basis. When we got a call or a complaint or concern, we would.
And was Mike the source of that call?
No.
Or was it Ed?
It was between Ed and Mike.
Yeah, that's what I meant, this Mike.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We want to try this new treatment in one pond because it's so expensive to see if we get good results. And I think we've had very good results. But a lot of people aren't happy with the results.
No, I understand.
I mean, what are you going to be happy with?
Well, I guess the thing we have to take away from this meeting is that it is a priority. We are spending time and money on it. Maybe not as much time and as much money as some would like.
Here, and we've tried everything.
But the package that we presented to y'all is something for you to digest. We've got some solid numbers there. There's different options.
Other questions for Aquagenics board members? Yes, sir.
Looking at the legend of all the ponds, why does the local power source have to be behind the residential home and not cause the pond itself? Opposite that location, so that the shortest distance on a trench, on an underground utility from the FPL boxes up the street, that far. We just chose the path of least resistance to save money on the power that the reason to go. Anybody have anything else?
Any other questions from the board at this time?
Giving us a lot to think about.
I need one more statement here, all right?
Sure.
I gotta tell you, Richard Rogers, who I don't always agree with, okay, has worked with John, Aquagenics, John and myself, and Ed, to, help out on the expenses of this thing, okay? He's got a property, he knows that, he wants to sell houses, and but he's worked really well with us. And Aquagenics is discounted the regular price on the applications or whatever, big time. So I appreciate both Richard Rogers, Aquagenics, and it's, they've done the best they could. I mean, they're both in business to make money, but they've really worked with us great to try and see if anything really works,
Anything else? Anything else, board members? Anything else for Aquagenics at this time?
I have just a quick question on the ponds. 9A and 9.
Those are still Richard Rogers. Those are the ones they just recently dug.
I know, but on this picture, they look like sand traps.
Yeah, when I did that map, the ponds weren't actually dug yet. So I was kind of guessing where they would be.
All right, this is going to be a problem in this area, 8, 10, whatever. Maybe we should keep that space dry. Seriously. They're not being facetious. They're going to create 2 new, maybe.
They're already dug.
Let's drain them.
And it's done already. The county's not going to allow that.
That would impact the marketing that Mr. Rogers is probably trying to do when he can't sell Lakeview property.
Anything else for Aquagenics at this time, board members, before we let them go? Mike and John, we appreciate your time. Thank you for...
Thank you. In closing, I just want to say
presentation.
I did give you guys a lot of information. If you have questions, give us a call. And if, Grant, if you need that Google Earth thing, I can email that to you, where you can zoom in, zoom out, and do whatever you need with it.
I will send this package.
Thank you.
The email, the
Yeah,
package,
this is
so that we'll put that on.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Mike.
Board members, under tab number 1, this is a ratification of the planting proposal. This was already done and performed. This was just something that we needed to have ratified at the Board of Supervisors meeting under tab number 1. It's part of your budget as well. Is there a motion on the table to ratify the aquatic plantings proposal? We have a motion from Ollie, a second from Denny. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. The next portion of the agenda, board members, is the landscape update. So Andy and I have a couple of items for you in regards to that. Under tab 3A and 3B, before we get into that, is the quality site assessment reports that Brightview has put together for us, and then I'm going to let Andy speak to the landscape contract as well.
Thank you. In looking at the landscape contract addendum that was in your agenda package as I was preparing for the meeting, first of all, that's an addendum that Brightview prepared, and if you reviewed it, you'll see that it has a number of issues with it. It speaks of a different district and things along those lines. But in any event, in looking at that and then looking through the records that I had, it was clear that we have already done a few addenda to the contract. And then in looking at the contract, we noticed, Grant and I, that it's actually expired already, and that in January, end of January of this year. So we are still using Brightview, obviously. They're out here doing our work for us sort of on a month-to-month basis. But we need to look at going out for bid and RFP process for a new vendor. Certainly nothing against Brightview. I mean, they're welcome to bid. You might end up choosing them as well. But we are statutorily required when we're over 195,000, which we are now, especially with the new areas that we've added in. we are statutorily required to go through a formal RFP process. And so that's sort of where we find ourselves. I presented that issue to Grant. Grant, I know you can address what you've put in the packet here, but I believe it's a proposal from Rosetta for conducting that process.
Correct, and what that is for a member of our field service team. This was done for you back in 2015 originally, where the actual process of running the RFP is done by a member of our field service team. What they do is they put together the actual RFP package. We send the advertisement out. We solicit the bids. We conduct an on-site pre-bid meeting. We walk the community with each of the vendors. We make sure they know the problem areas, all of the maintenance areas within the community as well that need to be addressed. And then after that, we give them a deadline for when they have to submit their bids by. We collect those bids, we summarize them for you, and then we present them to the Board of Supervisors for you guys to make a decision. There is a cost associated with having our field service team do that. That is a not to exceed amount of $3,000, and that's included in your package today for the $3,000. It's under tab number 4, and that's a sample contract for you as well.
I actually wasn't confused with that because I noticed it wasn't our district, but Grant explained it. It was a sample contract. And if there was something that the board was interested in pursuing, then obviously we prepared. I worked with Rosetta so they had a contract for our district.
And this would be, like I said, the field service team, licensed landscape professionals. They're all certified arborists as well, within our staff as well, that would run this process.
Our current contract with Greyhawk was a one-year contract with an option for 2 one-year renewals. We exercised both of those one-year renewals, and as I said, and looking back at the records, the third year ended January 27th. I want to say right around the end of January. We're not going to stop mowing, quick as that, or I'm running off the mow with them, but we need to have a vendor or a contract. We need to go forward with that process, however we choose to do it.
Andy, you're still representing Heritage Harbor?
Am I? Yes, Heritage Harbor South, yes.
Okay. What is their, what was their last year?
They actually have an agreement with the homeowners association there. There's a very limited amount of CDD common area in Heritage Harbor South. They have an agreement with the homeowners association. So the homeowners association did work to secure the vendor. I want to say TLC, is that right, Rick?
What is it?
I'm not sure. I want to say it's TLC, but I'm not sure about that.
I think that is, what I want to tell you is that I think that when you drive in there, okay, and I've been saying this, I've been going in there, we always bought a house there, and I have friends there, so, you know, I'm in there, you know, not as much lately, but they've always done a beautiful job in there. And I think their appearance is a step or two above what we have. Now, that being said, I don't know what they charge, okay? And they don't know our irrigation, especially the old part. The new part supposedly is good, but they really do a nice job there.
And certainly, I mean, what we will do, what we have to do is a formal RFP process. So there'll be an advertisement in the paper, but likewise, if you have a vendor, let's say TLC or another vendor, you can recommend those to Rosetta and you know, they can contact them and provide them a packet. But we will cast a wide net with the advertising that we do, and hopefully you'll get a large number of submittals so that you have an opportunity to compare and make an educated choice with, of course, the assistance from your management.
Yeah, their HOA and CDD are totally different than ours. It's totally different setup.
Right.
But all I can say is that their landscapers do a beautiful job.
And
if we can get something, I mean, we've had good bad results with Brightview. You know, Ed would know better than anybody, but you just do the visual. You know, and a lot of times we get quotes from Brightview, and we go out to somebody else, especially on trees and stuff, because they're not even competitive. It's I mean, one tree was 1,500, we got to pay 875.
Mike,
I mean,
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Grant just told me from looking through their records, because they manage Heritage Harbor South as well, that it's True State is the name of the company.
right, yeah. Well, now we're bigger than we used to be, but it's just maybe something to, one way or the other, we got to look into it anyway.
I mean, Waterleaf just did an RFP. They actually ended up selecting Artistry. I can't tell you that they're happy with them. They had a few issues, which hopefully they'll be able to work out with them. But, so there's a number of vendors out there. Venetian just went through an RFP. They actually ended up picking Brightview, switching from a company they had from the Fort Myers
It
area.
doesn't matter what you do, like, everybody wanted to bring in this company that was at Heritage Harbor, the kiosk or whatever.
Right.
We dealt with them when we looked to see what we were gonna do. And, and I liked them actually, or whatever, and then we turned them down and brought them back, and they got nasty with us. Now, Heritage Harbor just threw them out, or they threw them out. So, you can't please everybody.
Of course.
So,
What kind of timeline do we have on this?
I believe that the agreement that Rosetta prepared for you discusses a 60-day timeline.
Correct. And so that would be to put together the RFP process to elicit proposals for $3,000.
And when do we start it?
You could start,
Said go, then we can start.
we would generate the RFP beginning tomorrow, and I would anticipate it wouldn't take longer than a week or two to get
I think
out.
the word is go. Yeah, make it happen.
So is there a motion on the table to approve the Rosetta and Company Landscape RFP maintenance agreement
Yes.
in substantial form?
Yes.
you just gave it.
Not to exceed 3,000.
Not to exceed $3,000, and that was a motion from Ollie, a second from Denny. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
We keep Brightview on.
Correct. Any other discussion in regards to landscape and irrigation at this time?
Is somebody going to go find out what the irrigation schedule's going to be out here?
Correct. That was part of my to-do list as well. That was follow-up from an audience comment. I made a note on my follow-up sheet that I'll have the irrigation schedule for that new area.
Keep Denny plugged into this process.
I'd be happy to do so, so I'll make sure to keep,
Sure, it's fine. It's fine.
Denny and I will work with Brightview, and we'll get that updated irrigation schedule, and we'll have that available.
Thanks.
Well, no, I meant this RFP.
Correct, and I can work with Denny as well when we schedule the on-site meeting and everything as well. The next is under tab number 6. This is simple ratification process of the summer flower proposal. This was something part of your contract as well. This is just a summer flower change out as well. Let me know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. If not, we'd be seeking a motion to ratify the installation.
Grant, before we do that, I spoke to Ed today.
And well, yeah, no, this is part-time deal. It's different. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
What we're looking on that proposal is everything looked okay, all right? And the coleus is good for, hopefully the next 3 months. You got a little bit of the fall colors in there. Not that it's like full temperatures here, but that'll be good. But we're looking into the mulch, either what kind and the price. I don't know if Ed, probably you didn't have time to do it today. But I thought the price on the mulch was too high for the monument, and we may even change what we're going to do on that. So can we table that? We got time. I mean, this would probably be, well, at least a couple of weeks anyway.
Perfect. We'll table the proposal under tab number 6 unless the board has any
And if you can let
issues with that.
work on that with the mulch. The flowers are no problem. That's a good choice. And then November 1st, we'll put for the holidays, put the red and the white and maybe pink geraniums.
Thank you, Mike. We'll table this top proposal under tab number 6. Anything else for landscape and irrigation at this time before we move forward, board members?
Unless you want to do a, not to exceed, and then when Ed and I work out the thing and see what most we want to put in there, it looks kind of like a little draft right now. The flowers would be good, but I was hoping we could stretch it out till August.
That's within, Mike, that's within the $5,000 limit that Jeff or I can approve, so that we're fine with moving forward with that outside the meeting. Next topic on the agenda is going to be the district engineer. I apologize, that tab number 7 will actually be discussed under district council's report, so.
Okay, the first item on there is the update on the FDOT and State Road 64. I reached out to FDOT because I did see they put the temporary light at Lorraine Road as well as Rye, and I was just trying to check with them to find out, is there any other temporary plans, or have they started anything? And right now they seem to be very hesitant to say anything, so I don't know if they're being bombarded by others, but they were very, very quiet, and they basically, their responses were just very quick and says no changes, it's going to be just the same. And I asked about the timing, is it on schedule, and their response again was it's just the same. So there's really no other update other than there's a second temporary light that is out there at Lorraine. So
Yeah, there's one at Lorraine and one at Rye Road, correct?
yes, that's correct.
Did they
It's
give you-
almost like they gave everybody what they asked for, but they're calling it temporary.
Yes, until they get the money to build the roundabouts.
Let's hope they never get it.
Did they give you, or did you get any information from them about what they're going to do on 117th Street out here? There's a proposed car dealership out here, and when I spoke to them, they told me that they hadn't approved the car dealership, and I said I didn't know that you guys could approve car dealerships or not. And he said that they found, that their opinion was U-turns were safer. And leaving that as a U-turn area there was safer than putting any kind of roundabout or light or anything else. And I questioned, well, how do you get in and out of that car dealership if you're heading east? You'll have to do a U-turn. And they gave me no information and wouldn't discuss it with me.
Yeah, like I said, I think there's some outside somebody's telling them just don't say much. So I'm not sure why.
Is anyone going to that public hearing?
I did.
The one that's coming up next week?
No, I didn't, I don't know, I didn't know there was one next week. I might go to it. I mean, I went to the last one, and I was there like less than 20 minutes, and I left because I was frustrated with it.
This is for the car dealership.
Was that the orange sign on 117?
There was also some other discussion, I think, at the last meeting that said that car dealership may be moved farther down 64 in between Pope Road and White Eagle. That it might be moved down there with another public market. I guess that was what I heard at this meeting.
Earth property.
Yeah.
Anything else,
No,
Rick?
the down-to-earth property is going to stay like it is. They're not going to do anything with that, but
No,
that...
it's not. I know who the owner is, and he's got a temporary, there's no business going in there. All they do is park their equipment in there. So that's one of the places that they're looking at. I mean, I've heard 6 different things.
Yeah,
so,
for the car dealer.
You know, it's not sold. The person that owns it still owns it, and he's looking to sell it for big bucks to Cox. Okay?
Thank you. Rick, we'll go back to your report.
Okay. Underneath mine, under tab 8, you have the parking, the policy.
That was something that we discussed. This was something we discussed with the HOA as well. As you can see, the times that we wanted to change to, and I'll let Marcia speak to this as well, that should say 1:30 to 5 a.m. to match your documents, correct? 1 a.m. to 5:30. These were revised back in 2015.
Well, why, we already did this a couple of years ago. Yeah, come on, Marshall.
Yeah, that says a
The POA covenants under 5.9.
I understand that, but there were the same covenants under a different HOA leadership. And we had a POA, and we had a conversation, and we thought we put it to rest. Why is it coming up again?
Well, if you give me
Yeah, so that's the part I'd like to hear about, if you don't mind, is what's new? Not what's old, but what's new?
What's happening, Jeff, is the guards go out around 3 o'clock. They have to be back by 5 o'clock to open up the rec center. As you know, the covenant says there's no parking anytime between the hours of 1 and 5:30. But the document for the CDD states
3 to 5.
3 to 5.
5:30.
That was to be the patrol period.
Well,
We didn't change the rules.
what happened...
What we did was discuss the patrol period.
What happened was a homeowner got a tag on her windshield and pulled up the CDD rules and regulations, and it says the parking between 3 and 5. So there is concern because they're getting confused. So all we're trying to do is just either take it out or just go by what the restrictions is under the park reservations and parking policies. Street parking, it says no overnight parking permitted, defined as 3 to 5:30. Well, she got a ticket before that time, and so she thought she didn't do anything wrong.
No,
So
she
that's...
didn't do anything wrong at all, but it's still in the covenants. So, but if, we're not going to change, at least my opinion is that we're not going to change the patrol time.
No, the patrol, he's going
We
up...
need to tidy up our documents.
Exactly.
She's asking for, if you look at page 41 is what she's asking for of the agenda, is where it says the 3 to 5:30 a.m. In 3 different locations.
We don't have a problem with overnight parking if it's, if it's, guard did something wrong, let's just kill it and let's get on with it, come on,
But Andy, you were involved in the conversation when this was.
Right.
I mean, should we have not created a second document?
I mean,
Or were we creating instructions to the guards?
personally, I have no objection to changing the time. I mean, it's a board decision, but to change the time to 1 to 5:30.
Consistency is.
If yours is 1
fine.
to 5:30, I
Yes.
can confirm that. Okay, so to make it align with the
before. We've changed it before.
Yes.
And we adjusted it, and look, if somebody is like within on the border, it's not a major problem. We don't have a major problem with overnight parking, like some people made it out a year or two ago. So if there's a person that Marcia thinks that was, should have been, let's kill it, that's done.
All in favor,
Move on.
say
Board members, is there a motion on the table to change?
He said yes. He did it.
So there was a motion from Jeff, a second from Denny. All in favor of that motion to change the parking hours? All, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
When we
Motion
had
carries.
this discussion several years ago within the CDD, one of the primary reasons that we changed the time, and I thought it was from 2 to 5, was because of individuals who have guests over, especially during the holiday season, where the parties may extend beyond 1 o'clock in the morning. And that was the primary,
I mean, the whole thing was, the practice was,
yeah.
by 3:30, those people should be gone.
Exactly, and
And
all
no
we're
one's
trying to
gonna know
do
that
is
they were
make
there.
it 1 to 5:30,
gonna
but the
look.
guards don't go out till about 3.
Too early.
Yeah. No, that's true. And so we're not
We're
gonna
we're
open up,
agreement,
try to
I'm
open
just
up the
trying,
covenants, 'cause that'll
I'm just
cost
trying to
billions of
clean
dollars.
it up.
And that was approved, and I'll make those changes. I'll make sure that new document's uploaded to the website
I
as well.
think the most important thing is that the two documents are consistent.
Exactly.
And I will make sure that is uploaded to the Greyhawk CDD webpage accordingly as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
The quick claim, the deed.
Correct, under tab number 10, board members.
What I wanted to point out is what happened here is the first phase of the project, there was a parcel dedicated to the CDD. Then when they went to phase 3 and did the actual subdivision there, they added in the median. So what they did then is they changed the lot, pushed it out to make up for that space. So the plat is correct, but then the plat overlapped what the lands were of the first dedication back in the first phase. And this is kind of showing here, the dotted line right there. All of this was dedicated to the CDD. Then when they did this, and they have that notch, they pushed this lot back. So per the plat, this lot is still just as it is on the plat. But that little sliver of land was overlaid on land that was already owned by the CDD. Now, I want to point out there's a little bitty wedge on this next lot, so we're probably going to have the same issue with that one. So,
Right. We may or may not, if they have a, right, these people have a diligent title company, and when they went to sell it, or the buyer's title insurance, raised that as an issue, and so they came to the district and said, hey, this issue has developed, will you fix it? We said, prepare a quick claim deed, and we'll be glad to review it, which they did. I reviewed it. It looks fine, assuming the board wants to move forward, which I think...
It doesn't have any effect on the
How much
nature
is it
trail.
total?
6 inches.
Okay. It's nothing.
well, I think it's a little more than that, but
6 square inches.
but it's a very small amount.
So what we need, board, if you're so inclined, would be a motion to authorize the chair to execute the quick claim deed.
Can I vote on that?
Yes.
That was a motion from Denny. Second from Ollie. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
And then just a couple more things. There's what appears to be a plugged storm drain on Lavender. The vendor is going to be out here tomorrow to look at that. I was able to reach him, so he's coming out tomorrow to check that. From talking to the resident, the lake level stays low, but the water backs up in the road, so it kind of tells me that there's something in there. And then I got the guy coming back out to do some more sidewalk, the work on Snapdragon, the loop. And your sidewalks, these oak trees are creating a tremendous issue. I was out here 6 months ago, and I looked at every sidewalk, and as I drove up, there's more. So it's going to be an ongoing issue. And that's all I had, unless you got something for me. Yes, I'm working with the vendor with that one too, yes. And then on Lakes 47 and Lake 50, he fixed it for the third time, but I still need to follow up. We have still not paid him for that, so.
Anything else for the district engineer at this time, board members?
Just One of our action items, I figured Rick might need to go, but is that pothole? It's on the action item list. At the entrance or the exit on 64 from Greyhawk Boulevard. You know, there's off the side of the road, there's a big pothole that's gotten to be about this wide and about this long now.
They filled in, they opened tar for action, and it's filled in the ground, and I stopped out to
So this is in the FDOT right away?
As you move in Greyhawk, usually a lot of people go off years ago, right?
Right.
About 2 foot old, and it's like a 1 foot come back and just throw a fill there. They won't patch it.
Okay. And you're talking to somebody at the county? Okay. Okay. Did you want me to?
Well, as you continue to have interaction with them, maybe you can ask the question on Ed's behalf. Yeah, okay, you know, this has been fun, but that's going to start swallowing up cars.
Oh, okay. 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 I'm not sure why they wouldn't just fix it.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. We'll move back. The next topic is District Council's report. The one topic that he will address is under tab number 7, which he'll address under his report.
Thanks, Grant. Starting with that, there's a movement across the state where a lot of chatter about local governments, including special districts like the CDD, potentially being subject to having to make some revisions to websites to comply with ADA. It's really in the early stages. I'm not aware of any CDD on our coast that's been served with a lawsuit as of yet, but the management companies and council are being proactive. So our office has been continuing to look at it. Grant included a memo he received from the Hopping Green law firm. But basically, at the end of the day, the website is put together for our district and most districts by the management company. So Rosetta has, Grant just told me, I think it's something like 94 different websites. So they are, in fact, entering into a working relationship with a consultant to be able to advise them on what, if anything, is needed to make revisions for ADA.
So you'll keep us...
Yeah, I'll keep you in the loop as that progresses. This affects all of the CDDs that we manage as well, so.
Which I have a few, but very few. Unless you have a district that has its very own website that they manage and design, it really won't have an impact. This will be taken care of by your management company.
Okay, good.
And I'll keep that,
Thank you for-
and I'll keep you updated on that as well with Andy.
Next agenda item is update on small cell technology. So just an update on what's happening at Lakewood Ranch. We have another meeting with the vendor, USA Cran, which is the vendor that made the presentation to you. We have a meeting with them set up for next week on Tuesday morning. But the individual CDD boards at Lakewood Ranch each took a look at very close to a final form on a memorandum of understanding and a license agreement with this vendor. And the individual boards took a look at those, had a few final tweaks. We expect them to be approved at the July meetings. Once they are approved, those are the documents that USA Cran will take and hold in their hand and go and try and secure carrier, whether it be AT&T, Verizon, or whomever. Once they secure 2 carriers, then it will make financial sense for them to build the system. So as we've talked about, it's if we build it, they will come type of idea. And they will have our documents that everyone will have agreed upon. They will shop those, try and secure the 2 carriers. And they're, of course, already doing behind-the-scenes efforts to get the carriers on board. They tell us, they won't tell us who, they're keeping them confidential, but they are successful with 1 carrier so far. They're hoping to secure another. The idea that basically everybody has is once they have the 2, and they start to construct the system, the other 2 will jump on board because they don't want to have
so
their
let's say they get
without.
AT&T and Verizon.
Right.
Then the other carriers it's not going to help anybody that's got those, right?
it's not per se, but as I just alluded to, everybody expects, Mike, that once Lakewood Ranch, for instance, builds the system and has 2 carriers, if it's AT&T and Verizon and you're a Sprint customer, you're going to scream, they're going to jump on board, you're going to end up with all 4 most likely.
Yeah, I mean, we'll know more when they finalize the whole thing or whatever, but I think we got to take our time doing this one.
Right, so that's the plan, and, you know, I'll continue to keep you apprised.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's great that, like the entryway, that we can direct everybody to the front gate. Was good that they did it with all their lawyers and everything. Let them do it, and then when the whole, everything falls out, then we can take a look at it again and do what we want to do.
Yeah, they have brilliant counsel.
Very good. Thanks, Andy.
The next agenda item is Resolution 2018-04. As the board knows, we have an interlocal agreement with Manatee County, and of course we have a separate agreement with the sheriff for off-duty. But we have an interlocal agreement with Manatee County to allow them to come into our through our gates and on our CDD roadways. An issue has developed with Manatee County in that the interlocal that we have, which is uniform throughout the districts, basically says that we have the right to do traffic control on our roadways. There's a reference in there to it being done by resolution. So, as a sort of a belt and suspenders approach, this doesn't change our agreement, this doesn't change our protocol, but as a belt and suspenders approach, I prepared an actual resolution for my Manatee County district so that there's no argument should we take any action of putting up a stop sign or whatever it is we may do. And that's what this resolution is.
Which we've done.
Put up stop signs? Oh, right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
almost-
So this
almost
ratifies,
incessantly.
this ratifies the actions we've done in the past and memorializes any we might do in the
Okay.
future, just that we're doing it by resolution.
Okay.
So we'd be looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2018-04.
We have a motion from Ollie adopting Resolution 2018-04. Is there a second? There's a second from Denny. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I had, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for District Council at this time? Seeing none, we'll move. Seeing none, we'll move ahead to Ed's Field Manager Report.
The first item on there, I have completed mulch for the whole entire community. There is one section of Dove Trail and Nature View that needs to be completed, and they will be here possibly by next week, middle of next week, to have that completed. The pool pump, which was out this past week, that will be replaced over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. It should be installed. We're just waiting on the delivery of that. Also, we added the two 24-inch monitors at the guardhouse for the security cameras. So now we do have this pool, the rec center, online up there all the time, so they will have viewing of that when they're sitting up there at 1 o'clock in the morning. They will be able to see what is going on here at the pool and at the rec center. They already busted 2 people already around the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock time watching the screens from the guardhouse. The other issue is I'd like to propose 2 extra hours at the recreation center for the guard. Right now they are leaving at 7. I would like to propose to 9 o'clock to have a guard there due to the incidents that we had there last week.
What was that incident?
At 8 o'clock on Saturday night, we had a 12, 13-year-old child pull his pants down and defecated between the cabana and the men's restroom. It's on camera. We have the pictures of them. The father, neighbor, not sure who it is, actually seen this kid, didn't do anything, didn't say anything. Kid pulled up his pants, walked away. It was sitting there overnight till Monday morning when Frank came in and had to clean it up. So there was people, could have stepped in it, walked in it, leaving the cabana restroom.
Is this individual a resident here?
They are residents, yes.
I think action ought to be taken.
Yeah.
And we do have the...
Not so much for the act, but for the not reporting.
And we do have the photos and video of that also that happened.
And do we have evidence from their badges, who it
Correct,
was? So you
Yes.
had that corroborating evidence, okay.
The individuals are probably, they are under 15 years old, so they are not issued a card. They are using a residence card, and possibly the other person was their neighbor or I'm sorry, relative, mother, father. They were using their card also.
Well, that's a violation of the use policy that we have for the rec center and everything. So in the past, what we have done is we've shut off their cards and sent them letters and told them that they can't use the rec center for a year.
The nice thing about the one video, I mean, it's a black and white camera. Can't really make out the face. I mean, I have the photos here if you want to. Pass these down.
Speaking of that, let me chime in. I got a note here from Laura, she left, that when these acts of vandalism occur, what we need to do is we need to publicize it within the community. And so could you get the information to Lorna before the 27th to put into the newsletter? And,
We're not going to publicize who it was.
No.
Okay.
Do we want to put the names of the violators?
don't put the names.
in it? Okay.
No.
Okay, good.
Especially if it's a minor.
Right.
And the other was about 3 months ago when I brought up the homeless individual. The resident said I was storytelling and making that up. We also have pictures of the homeless doing his business back there as well. We have a picture of him. It's a color photo of him on his bike, and also of the individual sitting there, standing there smoking, urinated between the men's restroom, women's restroom. It's an ongoing issue. It's not going away.
Now, this is in the area where we were proposing to put the fence up out and behind the tennis court that everybody didn't want up, but it would turn around and prevent people from gaining access unless they have a card.
And somehow the rumor started that it was going to be a chain link fence. It's not. It's, as you guys seen, it was the nice aluminum black fence, the fancy gated fence, like as in Copper Creek across the street over there.
All that would do would be to eliminate people without cards getting into there. But if you have a card and go in there, well, at least you've got corroborating evidence then that somebody is misusing the facilities.
We're going to keep out the individuals that you don't have.
Stray cats.
Yeah, people using the basketball court. A lot of kids that come out here using it to work to see that a lot of individuals using the facility that's not theirs.
Well, I'd like to see something done predicated on what's happened here so that the individuals involved have their rights to the use of this clubhouse and that rec center shut off for a year. So I don't know do you need a motion for something like that or what?
And the sad thing is that there's a hose right there that Karen could have took that and washed it out. They chose to leave, take their towels and walk away from it because of it.
I'm reviewing the rules right now to make sure that we take the proper action. So if you want to maybe pass, come back.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll come back to that in a minute.
Okay.
But I have no issue with issuing a letter as well once we finalize what the rules are. So we'll move ahead to tab number 12. You have fitness center carpet proposals. I'll let Ed speak to this as well.
We've been working on this for a couple months now. This would be to carpet the fitness center, the 2 offices, and the hallway in between the offices. The cheapest is Minnesota flooring for $3,600. The second would be Bob's Carpet for $3,940. And third, we have Georgia Carpet, which is for $4,982.92.
This is for all the new...
Are all these the same type of carpet?
Same type of carpet. We had a sample, and we presented them with the sample of the carpet that we chose.
And this is for the whole rec center?
For the whole rec center, correct.
And the 2 offices?
2 offices.
We were looking
Hallway
at this for
also.
about a year now. I thought we were looking at this over a year.
Correct.
Okay, so I make a motion to go with the least expensive.
So that was a motion from Jeff to approve the Minnesota carpet proposal in the amount of $3,600. Second from Denny. Not to exceed $3,600. That was a second from Denny. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
And we are going to have to close that fitness center now for a few days.
Get that information to Lorna and make
Well,
sure
wait,
it goes
yeah,
out
wait
in
till
the
after
newsletter.
4th of July. Okay.
Anything else for Ed at this time, board members? Next up is my report. Just as a matter of announcement, the next meeting is Thursday, July 26th, 2018 at 6 p.m. in this location. The other item for for update is regarding the investment of the reserve funds. Jeff, I believe we've moved forward and all of that has been authorized and they're continuing and the investment has begun,
Just
so.
have to do the actual trade to move the funds and the securities.
Correct, and I anticipate that should happen within the next couple of weeks, so.
Yep, I'll follow up with Rod on that.
Understood. The next portion of the agenda, board members, is the business administration portion of the agenda. Under tab 13, you have the meeting minutes from May 24th, 2018.
We can't vote on anything with two of this.
Until Ali
So, anything else reporting you want to do? Because we can't vote on anything for.
I'm going to move ahead to the action item list. The very last item on the agenda, we'll skip ahead to till Ollie comes back. The cell tower is an ongoing update, and Andy will have an update for us in July. The midge fly issue will continue with the aquagenics treatments as we discussed for those problem area ponds within Greyhawk West, as well as have the board review the large packet. The common area maintenance plan, we did install everything along Mulberry. I will gather the irrigation maintenance schedule for that as well.
There was also a question on that relative to, are we going to extend past the roundabout?
If you recall, yeah, correct. If you recall, that was part of the proposals, that the two that you did not approve were for that and the two ends. Those were the only two that the board did not approve.
Do we know how much?
I can pull them back up and see what they were, but you want me to put them on the agenda for next month just to see what they are?
At least to just address the residents' concern or questions.
I'll put that on the agenda for next month. The next item is a review of the security protocol. Jeff and I and Ed will be having an on-site meeting with Allied Universal next week.
I'm sorry to back up a second there.
Yeah.
On the previous one. As we go through this RFP for a vendor to perform basically, area maintenance, is it possible to create a plan in which that vendor would operate as we formulate the RFP requirements?
And you're talking about like the scope of service for what the vendor can address. Once we draft that RFP, I can send it out to the board so that they can look at.
Yeah.
We put together the scope for you.
That would give us all a kind of a roadmap of what we were trying to accomplish over the next while, what's going to be therefore sent out to the vendors to give us feedback on the cost of it, will then get integrated into the budget. Even if we have to amend the budget to do so.
Correct.
Okay. That good with you?
Yeah.
The next is the preserve area encroachment. That's an ongoing issue that as we receive those issues, in which the biggest one recently, if you recall, is that earth balance issue that we have with Richard Rogers. I'm going to follow up with him in regards to that as well.
All right, well, there's also, it's not a preserve area, but I believe the gentleman's in the back of the room there that's got his drains sticking out underneath into our property, and it's causing Brightview not to be able to mow back there.
Correct, and I spoke to Mr. Scheer before the meeting as well. I've already indicated that to Richard via phone and email. He stated that it would be addressed. He was going to have his engineer take a look at it. I'll follow back up with him and make sure that's addressed. I told Mr. Scheer if he didn't hear back from me by next week, or if Richard didn't reach out to him directly, to please let me know and I'll follow up. Correct.
But is that a Sam Rogers home, or is that a Ryland home? That's a Ryland home, so the Ryland people are the ones that put that in and put those drains in. Now, Richard probably is not even aware of it, would be my best guess.
It sounds like what Grant is trying to accomplish.
Correct, and I'll work with him and to make sure that Ryland land development representative is addressed.
Okay, thank you.
The next is the state alarm contract / gate camera placement. That was something that, Andy, we put on hold, correct, the state alarm? work.
Looking at other vendors.
Correct, and I have had other vendors that have stated that they would come on site, and I would anticipate that you will probably be contacted by them within the next week or so. The next item is the Richard Rogers discussion. Anything you would like for me to take to Richard at this time?
When is he gonna put in the electric, the flowers, and the irrigation on that new monument over here?
I will follow up on that from Richard Rogers.
Is there still the punch list that was created a while back?
I still have a copy of the punch list. I can go back. That's what I'll do is when I recirculate that to him, I'll highlight the items that still are incomplete.
Because that was on the punch list.
Correct, that was.
He agreed to
I
formally,
agree.
and that's what allowed us to go forward with
Signing those areas. Correct.
the transfer.
It's up to the board whether or not you'd like to.
Yeah, sure.
Related to the punch list for Sam Rogers. So on Chantilly, the trail that goes behind Chantilly, there's a new trail that veers off to the right, and the understanding from many of the residents, and it could be a misunderstanding, is that trail is supposed to continue over towards the soccer fields and baseball fields. And so he continued the trail, but then it stopped, and he built park benches there, but it's in the middle of woods. So the question is that supposed to continue, or is it supposed to just stop?
It's supposed to continue to that trail or the sidewalk. If you walk all the way past the fishing pier lake out there, it's supposed to connect to
That's what
that.
we thought. But he has it stopped and has park benches, his built-in benches there, and it was, I think many of us are confused. Why would you go to the expense of building a bench when absolutely nobody's going to stop and sit in the woods and get eaten by mosquitoes?
Okay.
So
maybe on that one, when you get to that item, when you get to that item on the punch list,
There is
maybe check with Ed on
wood still.
particulars.
Over here behind the shop, it's in the, where they just put the other bridge right over here.
Yeah, because he's also putting a bridge over in that area where I think this young lady is speaking about over here behind Chantilly, in that new area where he's going out into that 5A, 5B, he's got a bridge that's being put in.
that's what I'm referring to. But it stopped.
Yeah, okay.
I'll add that to my list, make sure that's addressed.
Well, I'm thinking of it, the alligator question that came up earlier, we didn't specifically request that Lorna put that in the newsletter, but could you do that?
I will request that that be placed in the newsletter.
Headline.
Just a reminder.
The next item is the tennis/basketball court resurfacing.
If you want to go back, have an answer on this, it's been.
We can do that at this time.
I'm reviewing our current procedural rules with regards to usage of the recreational facilities. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing is that for the minor, it looks like it says at the discretion of the field manager staff, minors, children under the age of 18, he was under age, right, who violate the rules and policies may be expelled from the district facilities for 1 day. But the adult can be expelled from the board on a first offense for anything, it says not less than 30, so you can make it more than that.
So let's do that.
Did not that young man use his father's card, which is a violation?
Well, no, the father may have been with him.
I'm recommending that, it's your decision, but
So
I'm
that's the
recommending that you expel the
requirements.
child and for the maximum that you can, looks like a day, but that the parents for as long as you decide.
Yeah, so 30 days.
30 days, yeah.
Get the point.
I vote for 6 months.
Drop the hammer.
No.
Do you want me, no,
Don't give it too much to Lorna, just tell her that.
Yeah, that's,
we don't know who these people are.
Yeah, so
We
that,
have the cards that say, but the two children.
but Andy, what Andy's reminded us is the child can't enter without a parent, or without a card holder.
So Grant will, if it's the board's decision, Grant can send a letter expelling the child and then the family member.
So any other card holders that were part of this thing should be expelled.
correct, and that's what we indicated. So if that's the board's discretion, I can issue a letter.
We have some
Yes.
60 days, some 6 months.
So that's what the board members need, you need to decide how the length of period of time that these access cards will be turned off.
The reason they don't want the parents
30 days?
should be
That's 6
escorting
months?
them to the bathrooms or wherever, if they're underage, don't have a card. And for somebody else to give them a card or whatever is ridiculous.
Board members, is there a motion on the table to have staff issue a letter to the resident to suspend the child for the maximum amount of time of 1 day and to suspend the resident, parents' access card time period? That's a motion from Jeff, a second from Ollie. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Ed, if you give me that resident's name, I'll issue that letter next week.
It does provide that if any minor who is expelled 3 times within a 12-month period shall have his or her privileges suspended for a 12-month period. So, it's a 3 strikes.
I will include that verbiage as well in my letter to the resident.
We do have one little issue with the parents giving their child the adult's card to go use the pool facility and actually having people drop the kids off and they're scanning these cards to get them in.
And if we find that to factually be the case, then we should suspend the parent card from use and, because
If you can validate that,
That's
then
not
they
what's
should
supposed
be
to happen.
expelled. They should be expelled for 6 months or a year or whatever.
I mean, it's one thing for the parent to give the kid the card, but it's something different for another resident to give it's not the kid. I mean, is there difference in the rule? No. But I can understand the parent a little bit, but not for some other resident to give a kid a card to do whatever they're going to do.
come on.
Understood. Board members, any further discussion in regards to that topic? If not, we'll move back to the action item list. Under tab number 18, board members, we finished with the tennis/basketball court resurfacing.
I have a question on that tennis court stuff, though. And part of that proposal was to put the fencing up.
Correct.
And do we want to still consider going with the proposal to put the fencing up to minimize the kind of experiences we're having? And how much was that again? Because I don't remember.
I think it was around under 5,000, I believe, I'm not sure.
For the fence?
I think the fence was under 5.
All right.
Well, then let's bring the financials of this back into view.
Yeah, for the next.
I'll bring back the proposal to July meeting. We can do that. The next is the sidewalk repair. That's something that is going to be ongoing, as discussed by Rick. He had a couple other areas on Snapdragon that he said he was going to address.
Okay.
The next is the Greyhawk Landing community striping. That has been complete to my knowledge. I believe my office just received that invoice yesterday as well, so I'll move that down to the completed items. The next is the storage shed purchase. Ed, I don't know if you wanted to highlight anything any update in regards to that?
Has there been any changes since the last meeting at all? Okay.
We'll keep that on there. The 6-month trial period for the fitness equipment maintenance. I took a visit over there before today's meeting. I got here early, and I went over there and met with Carlene. She stated that she hasn't had any complaints or issues from any of the residents. To be honest, that was the first complaint that I've heard in over 2 months was tonight's audience comment.
We've taken care of that with the new carpet. And so,
No, but this is the rubber. This is complaining about the rubber.
okay.
Which I have
That the fitness center was dirty, the windows were dirty, but
Yeah, that's what my daughter told me.
yeah, I was in there as well, and it looked great, so.
Thank you.
The next is the investment of the debt service reserve fund. We discussed that. Jeff and I will work on that, and we'll make sure that that is completed and the trade is complete within the next couple of weeks. And we will keep you updated as that moves along. Brazilian pepper tree removal. This is ongoing. I believe that Aquagenics is in the second stage of it, correct? Do you have any locations in particular they're addressing?
They addressed it was on the corner of Daisy and Greyhawk Boulevard. The smaller bridge area is
almost complete. They have to do a little bit more over there, and they also have to do a little bit more across, a few small sections, but it is mostly complete over there. They will be moving to the wetlands down on Greyhawk Boulevard. First one will be on the right-hand side, and on the left. And from there, they will go to nature view and dump truck.
Any other items? The last is the pothole replacement. That was something that we just asked Rick to address, so. Any other topics the board wanted to add from tonight's meeting?
Just to go back to the security subject.
Correct. Next week, I'm going to come down and meet with both of you, and we're going to have that meeting with Jerry, the three of us.
Okay, but you did meet with Jerry, right? No. Oh, you didn't, okay.
No, he ended up not coming on that Tuesday morning.
Okay.
So I'll meet with you next week. Whatever day works for you, let us know, and then we can schedule it accordingly.
Okay.
The only day next week that I'm not available is Tuesday.
Friday would be good for me.
I can do next Friday.
That's what you're going to say, Tuesday, Friday.
No, I can do, I'll make sure it's scheduled for next Friday.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move back in the agenda. Board members, now to the business administration portion under tab number 13. Board members is where we're moving back to.
I had one comment, Fran, on
Yep.
page 4 under the 6th order of business.
Yep.
Says Mr. Phillips presented a recommendation on the review committee to the board for consideration, which was to select, and it's blank. But I think it's McDermott Davis, but that's what's in the.
Correct.
That was my only change.
I'll make sure that that is reflected. Any other comments, questions, or concerns in regards to the meeting minutes as presented? If not, we'd be seeking a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on May 24th, 2018 with the noted change. We have a motion from Denny, second from Ollie. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next up, board members, is under tab number 14, you have the operations and maintenance expenditures for May of 2018. These total $89,399.45. Non-recurring expenditures include, you had irrigation repairs, you had the remove and replace plants, you had your annual operating permits for your pools and spas, which I just delivered to Ed today, so those are all up to date. You had Nostalgic Lamppost, had a number of repairs. We had a couple gate service calls as well. You had 2 months of security billing, and your large expenditure was the brown mulch installation from your wholesale landscape supply. Any comments or questions in regards to those expenditures that have been paid?
Nope.
Seeing none, board members, we seek a motion to ratify the operations and maintenance expenditures for May of 2018. We have a motion from Ollie, a second from Jeff. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Board members, as you recall, the next item is a consideration of a reserve study update proposal. As you recall, at the last meeting, you requested that I go out and request a proposal for what it would cost to have an updated reserve study performed on the district's amenities. As you can see, Florida Reserve Study and Appraisal has gathered this for $3,000 to perform this report. This will give you the life expectancy of your current amenities and infrastructure, as well as give you budgetary figures for your reserve fund.
That's the cost of,
That's the cost for them. That's the cost for them to put together the report.
and who's doing this?
Florida Reserve Study and Appraisal. Paul Galazzi and Stephen Schwartz. They've been doing this. I've done this with.
Did they do this before for us?
Did they do the original?
Almost.
I'd have to double check.
I mean, it's like 3, 4, even 5 years ago.
I'd have to double check to ensure who did
You
it.
know, it was,
I
you know,
think so, but I would
Greg
want
was
Greg
here.
to.
Yeah, I can.
No, it doesn't matter.
Are you familiar, Mandy? Do you do anything?
Oh, yeah, they do a lot of districts.
Okay.
Yeah, they do quite a few.
So what do you need a proposal to?
Is there a motion to approve the reserve study update proposal? We have a motion from Jeff, second from Denny. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next up, board members, under tab number 16, this is just a simple ratification as Ed indicated between the last meeting and this meeting, we had the pool pump that needed replacement. So we went ahead and approved that. I actually delivered the check as well, so that could be paid and the part could be installed this weekend. So at this time, board members would be seeking a motion just to ratify the $3,100 pool pump replacement. That was a motion from Ollie, a second from Denny. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item is the holiday decor proposal. This is under tab number 17. If you recall, this is the Trimmer's holiday decor. This is someone that you've been using for the past 5 fiscal years. This is something that they asked that be approved by September 1st so they can put you on schedule to have this installed.
How much of an increase over last year?
They increased over last year by little over $1,000. Correct.
This is the exact same amount of stuff that we would normally have done. No?
With, as Ed just mentioned, the added monuments as well.
Added money.
And it is reflected in the line item in the budget to reflect, I can reflect it for the final budget if it's approved. Obviously, the work wouldn't be done until after that new budget took effect, so I could change that line item if approved, this proposal is approved for that $10,017 instead of the $9,100, I believe it's 34, that was approved last year, in last year's budget. That was a motion from Ollie approving the holiday decor proposal, and we'll get it on schedule. A second from Denny. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Board members, the last item on the agenda is supervisor requests, as we've already done the action item list. Are there any supervisor requests at this time? Yes, sir.
I have one. There was an email that I think you and I shared with, it was a proposal by one of the residents to hold a town hall meeting, and we discussed it relative to who the new candidates were going to be, and a kind of a meet the candidate proposal. And I don't know that we want to sponsor it, but I think we should look at, because I mean, I know who the candidates are right now.
Has the period closed yet?
Yes.
It closes tomorrow at noon. Tomorrow at noon is the last time you can file for
But we do
election.
have, in all 3 of the seats, we do have
We have 6 total candidates to date,
and all 3 are
contested.
So we do have a need to have a candidate night, which is unusual for us.
We discussed having it in August.
Yep. Yeah, so do you have any concerns of who and how that is staged?
I don't have any concern with us making the facility available, as long as we make it available, as you're talking about, to every candidate. You wouldn't be able to say only you and you could come.
No, it's an open house to the community and to the candidates.
Does it need to
And
be
those who choose to show up from either group,
Exactly.
Godspeed.
Excuse me, Jeff. This was proposed by a resident.
Well, it was proposed by dozens of residents.
Well, I
So
remember.
that's why we want to, I think we want to try to have it done by the community rather than by the League of Women Voters or the Democrats or the, whatever, that we just do it as part of a community event.
Do you want to speak with your events committee and see if they'll coordinate it?
Yeah.
And we can make the facility available? And with the parameters that we said, which is as long as it's open to everybody, whoever can come, can come.
Do you know who to contact?
I'll take care of that, and I'll contact the events committee. Yes, I can.
You can contact one of the events.
Correct. I know exactly what you're speaking
Okay.
of.
Right. But that would be, my thought is that we sponsor it, the CDD sponsor, or the community sponsors it,
Community sponsored.
even if there's some out-of-pocket that has to be approved?
We shouldn't be spending any money on it.
No? Okay.
We did have one question in the back, sir, yes?
Here. Oh, yeah, absolutely, it would be here.
We would just be providing the location as long as it's open to everybody.
Okay, and the events committee
Can organize
can
it however they
organize
want.
it and embellish it if they
Correct.
choose to. Okay.
Yep.
So that's good.
That's what he just mentioned to me, and I will not go through that member of the events committee to schedule that accordingly.
Because as far as I know, currently the events committee does not have a singular leadership.
Correct. And as,
Probably approaching Lindsay with.
correct. And I can do that. Any other supervisor requests at this time, board members?
Yeah, I discussed this sort of formally with Ed across the room here. Lorna sent me a note and asked that when vandalism occurs within the community, make sure that she gets the word so that she can put it in the newsletter. I also think that we need to give her the information about how we changed the parking times so that it reflects what the POA's parking times are as well. And the third thing is to make sure that she my suggestion would be she puts a lot of things in there that are reoccurring on a monthly basis. The thing about the alligators and the snakes and the wildlife.
I made note of that here to include as part of my list to give to Lorna to include the next newsletter. We also have a motion on the table for the meeting to be adjourned. That was a motion from Ollie, a second from Denny. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Any opposed? Consider the meeting adjourned at 8:12 p.m. Thank you.
Could you just get on